welcome back to Sunday Vibes. Me, Chris and Pat, as it always seems to be, probably getting boring by now. But nevertheless, we answer your questions every single week. What a start. The energy is palpable from you, Pato, this morning, I have to say.
I'm fine. What are you talking about?
Well, you look fine, mate.
Don't try and deflect your negative vibes onto Patrick, who's been unusually positive this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
I have actually got a few negative vibes this morning, but I have got some positive vibes about one video that went up yesterday. FDFC versus Soccer AM Hamster.
God.
He wasn't involved.
Woo.
Where were you, on holiday or something, weren't you?
I don't remember. I just didn't want to hang out with you.
What about you, Hamster?
Doesn't
What
surprise
happened?
me. Ignorant
What are we
pig.
thinking of the video so far?
Well, I don't want to say anything about the
It's bad,
result, just in case people are watching this and they haven't seen yesterday's video. But what I will say is, what a day at the office playing against the likes of Paul Merson, who's definitely still got it. His touch turned me into a terracotta warrior on more than one occasion. Jimmy Bullard and Tubes. What a midfield that was.
How much time did Bullard spend on the ball? He could have he may as well taken out a mortgage on it. It was outrageous.
Yeah, and there's one moment where George Wright humiliates Adam Smith, aka the Hare.
Smithy.
The Rhino.
And it's well worth watching. It's well worth tuning in for, just to watch a kid who's basically a bag of bones take on a fully grown man, emasculate a fully grown man who is just about to get married.
It's incredible.
He might have cancelled the wedding as a result. But what did you think? From your berth at centre back.
Yeah, obviously I was centre half with Sav, so
needed your pace in there, mate.
My pace, his strength, his brawn worked quite well, I think. But you'd have to go and see how we did. Obviously, the link will be in the description below. But it was a lot of fun. The edit is quality. Is also a behind-the-scenes video on FDFC, so check that out. It's going to be a lot more interesting than what we discuss on Sunday Vibes. More importantly, let's go to your questions. The first one of which comes from someone I can't see on my sheet of paper.
It's Toro99, mate. Come
Toro
on, get a grip.
99. Big up Toro99. He says, which player would you have liked to see in your club sign in January? Now, we are past the cut-off date. The deadline has passed, but your club did good business, so who would you like to see? No one?
I think this question's in hindsight, right? So which
Yeah.
player would you have liked
to see?
to have come in? Yeah.
Okay, who would you like to see? Because you did good business.
Yeah, I mean the one argument I have is that we got some old guys in. So we got Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang, and it might have been better for us to spend that money on a Fekir, who I think is a better long-term prospect than Mkhitaryan. Been involved in 21 goals, I think, in the league this season. That's absolutely nuts. He's been sensational. Obviously, a great dribbler as well, and that's something Arsenal have missed in recent years. The guy who can beat his man in a wide area. Like, we don't really have that. Whereas you look at a team like United or City, you know, they're absolutely stacked with those. Even Celtic, mate. Even Celtic. You know, you have Paddy Roberts. You've got the genius of Scott Sinclair on one wing, and that is really useful. Whereas Arsenal are a bit more predictable as a result. But what we could really have done with is shoring up the midfield, and that's what I think we will do in the summer. I think that
defensive midfield, what do you mean?
Well, generally, I think the whole midfield, like we've always struggled connecting our defence to our attack, and I think a player like Ndombele from Lyon, great defensive output, really good dribbler, really good passer as well. He'd have been great, really young. Or Andrea Zivkovic. I actually retweeted Ted Knutson's radars of him for the last couple of seasons. And this is a guy who they've been talking about for years.
You got to give him some context about Ted, because he's pretty much your idol. And you're like Ted Light, right?
Not really.
Dig. But he's an analyst.
An analyst.
Statistical analysis.
An analyst.
Ted Knutson basically is a football analyst. So what he does is he looks into the stats of players and comes up with models to kind of figure out which players clubs should send scouts to go and watch. And he's done a really good job at identifying talent young. In fact, back in the January of like 2013, the strikers he recommended Arsenal buy at the time were Alexandre Lacazette when he was still playing on the wing, Aubameyang when he was still at Saint-Etienne, and Antoine Griezmann when he was still at Sociedad. So
like
pretty good track record. And Naby Keita before anyone knew his name when he was still in Austria. So Andrea Zivkovic, he's a central midfielder playing at Benfica. He's going to get some minutes now because Krovinovic, who's been great in central midfield, looks like he's injured. And he's got huge defensive output. He's winning around 6 tackles and interceptions a game. He's also creating 3 chances a game. He's also dribbling. He's a phenomenal passer. And it just seems that basically Croatia, Serbia, all that kind of area of Europe, they do an absolutely staggering job at turning out young, technically gifted midfielders. Bosnia as well. just unbelievable players who can perform a bunch of roles in midfield. And what Arsenal need is a guy who can defend and who can also get forward and attack. You look at pretty much every team in the country now, and they've got at least one person who can perform every role in central midfield. And Arsenal don't. They have specialists, and their specialists are not.
Okay, so this kid's at Benfica, is it? Because they've also got Pizzi, right? And he's been long linked with teams for a little while.
Well, he's a wide player though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know how old he is now, actually. I mean, Benfica's one of those things where like I don't pay attention for like 6 years, and then suddenly this guy, everyone's like, you should watch him, and I think...
I kind of feel like you do need a specialist, though. I kind of feel like you do need a specialist defensive midfielder. I think that Xhaka was kind of brought in to potentially play that role, but I don't think he's actually turned out to be that type of player at all.
He's not agile enough, yeah.
I kind of feel like Ramsey isn't that kind of player, more of a box-to-box midfielder.
I'd say he's more of an attacking midfielder.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ramsey actually is a specialist. He's essentially a second striker right now.
I don't think that Wilshere can play that role. Obviously, I think Cazorla is long gone. So I don't think El Neni can play that role. So I think that's a big hole for you. I think you need a specialist defensive midfielder.
But what I mean by like not a specialist is like what I don't think you can get away with anymore is a guy who just tackles and intercepts. You need somebody who can also dribble away from pressure. So somebody like Alan at Napoli would be the kind of the model for the sort of player Arsenal need. A guy who can break up play, but then can also burst through a press.
I wouldn't mind Jorginho either.
Jorginho would be amazing, but Jorginho is a guy who can pass through a press.
I think you've got the Liverpool conundrum right now, where you've got loads of midfielders who can do loads of jobs, but none of them are fantastic in one area.
I think Ramsey actually is fantastic in one area. He is an exceptional attacking midfielder, but he doesn't do any of the other things you want a midfielder to do. Arsenal's midfield at the moment is just weak. It's weak across the board. Cazorla going down. Cazorla was our one exceptional midfielder, and he's gone now.
I really agree. I think Ramsey is an exceptional attacking midfielder, but I'm not convinced Arsenal can accommodate Aaron Ramsey with Ozil and Mkhitaryan in the same team.
There's not enough. I mean, unless Mkhitaryan continues the defensive work rate he started his Arsenal career with, there's no way.
Especially if they want to bring Lacazette into the team at any given point as well, out wide on the left. That is going to be extremely difficult, isn't it? But why don't you go ahead of Manchester United then, mate? So yours was Ndombele, right?
I'm gonna go for Zivkovic. I'm a hipster today.
So it's who would you have liked to have seen? I think Manchester United crying out for a centre half. Way too much dead weight at centre half. Just a lot of mediocre players in that position. I mean, our one outstanding centre back, in my opinion, is Eric Bailly, and we've been terribly hampered by his injury. You look at the likes of Chris Smalling, Phil Jones, Marcos Rojo. You can argue Daley Blind occasionally plays in there as well. Victor Lindelof not quite been up to scratch since we signed him. Those players all occupy the same sort of level for me. I think probably 2 of them will be sold in the summer. Daley Blind will definitely leave the club. I'm not sure Chris Smalling and Phil Jones can both survive at Old Trafford for much longer. So I would have really liked to see us sign a centre-half, especially when some of our rivals did really good central defensive business. In Aymeric Laporte, I think Man United could have potentially had a look at him, gone in with a rival bid to Manchester City. We saw us do a similar thing with Alexis Sanchez, and Man City couldn't compete mainly with our financial clout. And I think
he's a very Pep Guardiola.
He is, but we kind of said in the build-up as well that Alexis Sanchez is a very Pep Guardiola sort of attacker.
Yeah, but I think he's more multifaceted, where this is someone that Pep wants to bend and shape, right?
Potentially.
Do you imagine Laporte playing under Jose Mourinho?
In the same round, wouldn't necessarily have had to be Laporte. Van Dijk very publicly wanted a big move, and just because Liverpool were the outstanding candidates financially, it seems he's gone there. I don't think he necessarily had like a heart.
So you'd have gone.
I would have gone.
Would you have been happy to go in for Van Dijk for 75 mil?
Yeah, 100%. I think Manchester United could have afforded that sort of money on their wage bill. Whereas you look at Liverpool signing him and it looks like a massive move. I think United would have been a big one.
So do you think when Jose Mourinho says, I need more money to bring the squad up to scratch with Manchester City, that he's thinking of a centre-back?
Well, he's come out publicly this week, hasn't he? And he said that he will not be signing any more attacking players over the next season. I think his 2 areas that he's going to want to improve. One is potentially a young right-back option, where he's going to want to come in, learn a little bit from Antonio Valencia, who has been outstanding for 2 years. How much longer he's got, not too sure. I think get a youngster in that position. He'll get an established name at centre-half. I don't think he'll be messing around signing youngsters anymore. He's tried it with Lindelof. Lindelof is there as a backup option. He's got Eric Bailly, he's still a very, very young lad, and I think he'll go for an established name that he thinks can be dominant at centre half for him.
What about centre mid? Because that is a problem. That is a
and
problem
also
area, right?
central midfield.
What about Pogba? Didn't Mourinho say at one point Pogba could play centre half?
There's no way.
I mean, it'd be fucking
we've
funny.
spoken about it on this show before, but I think that Pogba needs to be much more advanced in his play, and
Sure.
I think that can only happen when Matic has a secondary supporting option. When they play as a two, Pogba and Matic, Pogba plays very deep. I think if Matic has a secondary option, so if at the moment it's Ander Herrera, I think United can sign an upgrade on Ander Herrera this summer. So personally, the target areas, big money moves this summer will be centre half and in central midfield. David De Gea will get a monster new contract, so he'll sign. Ander Herrera is out of contract in the summer, so I think we'll sign a big upgrade in central midfield. We'll sign a big upgrade at centre back. An established name will come in. I don't know who those players are yet. I don't think there's much in the market at centre back.
But to go back to the question, who would you have liked them to have been?
Well, yeah, I would have liked to have seen Van Dijk at Manchester United, but equally, I think he was very close to signing for Liverpool in January, wasn't he? I mean, in summer last year, so the move in January was almost expected.
He seemed a little bit
He seemed like he had his heart
infatuated with Jurgen Klopp, didn't he?
I think, and also I think
over.
Liverpool were the only club willing to bid £75 million at the time to get him out of there. And as for a central midfield option, I don't know. I think there are options in the market, but who you can tempt? I personally wouldn't go for him because I think he's past his best, doesn't suit us. But I would be surprised if Jose doesn't make a move for Arturo Vidal in the summer. I don't think he suits Manchester United. I don't think he is the mould of the player I would necessarily choose. I'd prefer sort of a 24-year-old that can be moulded into that position.
Sure.
I'd be surprised if Conte also doesn't make a move for him. What is it, 3.5 tackles, interceptions a game? I think he's already got 6 goals this season.
Very much so.
That's very true.
There's also maybe you might have a look at a Koke from Atletico Madrid. I don't know whether Diego Simeone's still going to be there.
What about a Milinkovic-Savic?
I don't think so much Milinkovic-Savic,
rising.
because I think if we go for Milinkovic-Savic, it may be at the detriment to where Paul Pogba plays. I don't know whether you want those players that are both sort of carry the ball through the midfield, very strong dribbling, very, very big and strong. I think more you want. Yeah, I think you might go for a Vidal. Doesn't suit how I would like to play as Man United, but just you know what Mourinho likes, experience in that position.
Likes a henchman.
I
think there's some
Vidal will burn
centre-backs
himself in.
right for the picking in Serie A. You've got the likes of Skriniar, who's impressing immensely at Inter Milan. He's really taken up the mantle, actually, especially as Inter have struggled in recent weeks. I think they're winless in 8 fixtures, which is a record for the club. And there's De Vrij from Lazio as well. Obviously, Lazio surprise package of the Serie A season. So I think particularly the former, I think a big club should move for him if Inter Milan don't get Champions League football, because that's probably the cheapest you're going to get him at.
And Mauricio Lemos, who was really good at Las Palmas last season, has now gone to Sassuolo, I think. So yeah, I think quite often Serie A, they snap up these guys, and then 6 months later everyone says, why weren't we in for this person? Like, I mean, those are actually the buys that I think Celtic could make, because I don't see how Sassuolo can attract a player that Celtic couldn't, is the way I look at it, except that they're like, well, we are in a bigger league. Like, you can offer Champions League football and probably more money, and arguably and certainly a bigger history.
Yeah, it's always difficult to get excited about the transfer window, or even have a realistic hypothetical for this question that other people would want to listen to as a Celtic fan, because how do you even predict the future success of some of our more high-profile signings recently, or high-profile sales, should I say, in Victor Wanyama, who we got from Germinal Beer Shop for 600k. First Kenyan to score in the Champions League, I think.
Bopper of a finish against
McDonald Mariga, first Kenyan to score in the Serie A, his brother. We got Virgil van Dijk from Groningen for 2.3 million. But for every one of those signings, there is a Stefan Skopovic, who we signed from La Liga for 2 million. There is a Efe Ambrose from Ashdod, who we also got.
I forgot he came from Israel, didn't he?
Yeah. I think we also got Nir Baton from them, who's been a decent servant. So we operate in a very awkward area that can be quite lucrative if you get it right, and that's what that's the lifeblood of Celtic at the moment. But Brendan Rodgers is giving us the edge when it comes to attracting promising youngsters to the club.
Yes, definitely.
We've seen it with Paddy Roberts, who committed another year to Celtic when he could have gone elsewhere, and that's because the fans loved him. He was getting Champions League football. He started the season well again, scoring against Anderlecht in the Champions League. Unfortunately, he's been injured for the last 2 or 3 months, but it looks like he's going to be back for the return leg against Zenit. We attracted Charlie Masonda to the club, whose agent said 24 clubs were in for him.
That's such a good sign, Charlie Masonda.
And I imagine one of them was West Ham, just because. Moussa Dembele came to the club when Tottenham and Juventus wanted him, because Brendan Rodgers convinced him that the team would be built around him. He's not been great this season. Edouard's sort of come to the fore, who's come on over from PSG as well.
Yeah.
So our sort of modus operandi now is hovering around the big clubs and picking up people who slip through the net, which is
that's a smart move.
Which isn't the worst thing to do. So with that in mind, we needed a centre back, we needed a right back, and potentially a goalkeeper. Joel Pereira from Manchester United might not have been the worst option to go in goal.
He would have been a great signing for you. He's third choice, you know, gives no minutes, and he's a fantastic young player.
Axel Tuanzebe went to Villa.
Axel Tuanzebe should have been starting some games for United so far this season. He's really genuinely that good.
I think if you said to Timothy Fosu-Mensah as well at the start of the season, would you prefer a season in Scotland as well as Champions League football or a relegation dogfight at Crystal Palace? He might have come up to us.
Tuanzebe at Villa is an absolute joke.
But I mean, Steve Bruce, Man United connections.
Screw the Man United connections. He's by far good enough to start in the Premier League side.
Yeah, I mean, we had our fingers stung with Tyler Blackett beforehand when he joined from Man United, and we sent him back after 2 or 3 months.
He was rubbish. The main thing he did was like break Jack Wilshere's ankle.
So it is youngsters who we can maybe agree a nominal fee with in terms of buying them after a loan deal, or youngsters like Masonda who can make an impact on the first team right away that we're shopping about for. But yeah, so a goalkeeper, right back, Odriozola. I've seen him play recently in La Liga for Real Sociedad. He's impressed me. He creates a lot of chances going forward. I believe around 2.4 a game, which is no mean feat for someone like Sociedad. Who else has impressed me in Serie A that could feasibly come to Celtic? Maybe go back in for Papu Gomez in about 3 years' time when he's 33. I love that guy. Absolute Don. He's got a Peppa Pig captain's armband. Custom shit. But that's it from me. I've bored everyone to tears with my Celtic chat.
Let's ask the people at home, what did you want to see your club sign? Who did you want at your club? This outro's not gone very well. You know the score, just do it in the comments. Bye. Our final question of the day was sent in by absolutely loads of you around Riyad Mahrez' future on deadline day. Was it the right decision to keep him at the club from Leicester's point of view? Hamster, you're obviously a Fox's boy born and bred. What do you think?
It's a complicated one, isn't it? Because the player has performed to a level where he is deserving of a move to another club. But I think Leicester were well within their rights to say this is our valuation of the player, especially so late in the transfer market, which I do think was key.
Yeah, well,
they didn't give Leicester time to find an adequate replacement. This is a guy who scored 9 goals in his last 20 games for Leicester, reinvigorated after struggling in that hangover season from the title win. And without him, Leicester begin to look very ordinary and maybe drop out of the race for Europa League spaces. Now, I think Leicester, how much money they're asking for may have been a little bit
95 mil.
Unreasonable.
Yeah, but you ask for a lot, don't you? That's how you get more.
Yeah, exactly. But Manchester City, by the same virtue, everyone knows they have an endless stream of cash at their disposal. And if you're going to unsettle a squad on deadline day, expect to pay a sort of tax on top of that, right? Riyad Mahrez, he's on handsome money at Leicester City. He's worshipped at the club.
Is he still worshipped at the club, even after this hissy fit?
Yeah, surely. The fans have always known he's a bit of a twat. He's worshipped for his on-field antics, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he was bought from mediocrity in France. Leicester have sort of moulded him into the player he is. But saying that, he doesn't owe them any more than what he's given them on the pitch. So I think his performance do warrant a move, but maybe it had something to do with how late Manchester City went in for him. And let's be honest, Leroy Sané, already back in training, would he have been wasted on the bench at Manchester City? If we apply a bit of foresight here, I'd have actually much preferred to have seen him move to someone like Roma.
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm
in terms of
100%
player
in
development.
agreement. But I actually disagree from Leicester's point of view. I think they should have sold him. I think they should have cashed in on him.
Okay.
I actually think £60 million is a reasonable fee for Riyad Mahrez.
I think
Bearing
it's a
in mind,
slightly
in the
generous
summer, we were kind of talking, Leicester asking for about 40 to 50. I'm not sure he's added that much value just because of the January transfer window. Maybe that value comes from it being such a late move, you're right. But I think £60 million is a reasonable sum for a player who's not 21 either. He's, 26?
Yeah.
I think it would have been a good move for Leicester to sell him now, get him off the books. It would have been a good move for Riyad Mahrez. He wouldn't necessarily have been a starter, but been a squad player in another title-winning side under the best coach in the world. There's obvious reasons he wanted to go, and we all know him. And I think Leicester should have cashed in. I personally think they're in danger of ending up in a little bit of an Alexis Sanchez situation, not because of the contract length, but I'm not sure they'll ever get an offer that's as good as that again.
But from the club's point of view, they've got a manager in now who's extremely capable of securing European football. If they were to sell that player, where's the motivation for the fans, for the rest of the team to sort of continue on an upwards trajectory for the rest of the season? I feel like that's almost
you've got to trust
cashing in the rest of your season for that £60 million.
You've got to trust that your club can reinvest it correctly. I think
on deadline day, who are they linked with if in the summer when Riyad Mahrez is going to go? Andros Townsend.
But the rest of their season's not worth anything.
The timing is poor.
It is to Leicester fans who want Europa League football.
But are they going to get Europa League football? And if they were going to get, where do they have to finish to get Europa League football?
7th.
Yeah.
7th. Well, the thing is, I kind of feel like they probably will get 7th purely because there aren't really good rivals to the position. Like, I'm not sure that Mahrez necessarily makes the difference there. I think they've got a better squad even without him.
I think he does. I really, Damari Gray, every time I've watched him, his decision making is a little bit off. I don't think he's going to have anywhere near the same impact. Just bought someone from the second division in France who started in the Premier League. Leicester are unlucky not to beat West Brom the other week. Absolutely smashed them about. But maybe if Kelechi and Iheanacho, if that move had gone in a slightly more successful fashion, they could afford to lose someone like Mahrez. But I think,
I'm not saying they'd stay
the same sentiment.
I'm not saying they would have stayed the same standard without Mahrez. I just think that their season will be fine even without him. And frankly, like if Leicester's, I'm not sure Leicester fans have anything to complain about. Like they've had something that surely none of them ever expected to happen in the last couple of years when they won a title. And I think that £60 million they could have invested it kind of well. They've constantly boasted about their recruitment, and I think this was a good opportunity for them to show that they're good at it. 60 million is a more than fair offer. I completely agree that he shouldn't have gone to Man City. I think if I were him, while you'd want to go there, you'd want to win a title, you'd want to play under Guardiola. I also think that City have basically dodged a couple of bullets in January by not hooking up huge wages on Alexis Sanchez until he's in his mid-30s and not signing Riyad Mahrez for 60 million quid just so he could sit on their bench. Like, that would have been a horrible move.
But we also, the football community as a whole, more so than we three, have sort of praised Liverpool for holding out in terms of rejecting Barcelona's advances for Philippe Coutinho and managing to get 142 million pounds for his services in January. How can we praise Liverpool's stance on the one hand and then maybe criticise Leicester for asking for too much on the other? Is this just people kicking a smaller club in their hour of need?
I don't think, I'm personally not anyway, I'm not necessarily criticising Leicester for asking for a lot of money. I think they are well within their right to ask for a lot of money. I think that £60 million, in a similar way to I think £140 million, is a more than reasonable offer for Philippe Coutinho. I think £60 million is a more than reasonable offer for Riyad Mahrez. I think in the same way, I think Liverpool potentially made the wrong decision selling him in January.
Yeah.
But equally, I think their top four push is a lot more vital to the club than Leicester's Europa League push.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You tell that to the fans.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, maybe as a Leicester fan, I'm sure you would disagree. But equally, if £60 million allowed you to sign a new centre half and a new central midfielder to replace Danny Drinkwater, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, maybe he's seen Drinkwater go, he's seen Kante go to bigger clubs, and he's thought, well, I do deserve my move. They let Jamie Vardy speak to Arsenal.
Yeah.
So he wants to be afforded the same sort of respect, which is not unreasonable.
And also, if you
he is more important than all those players.
If you can't back the club to reinvest what would have been now £130 million after the sale of Kante, Drinkwater and Mahrez, if you can't back that club to reinvest £130 million into probably 4 or 5 adequate replacements, then...
But I think they've set a good precedent. Sell him in the summer, get him back after 2 or 3 weeks of him throwing his toys out of the pram, get him to be a model pro, get him to put himself back in the shot window, and then Puel can reinvest that better in the summer, because I think now they have someone who can wisely reinvest that. I mean, I'm not sure.
It's an interesting debate.
It would have had, you would have trusted Craig Shakespeare to spend 95 million, despite, regardless of how good a coach he is, just because he's not got that worldly footballing experience that Puel maybe has. But I think Leicester will get rid of him in the summer.
Yeah, I think
I think that's probably the right decision. How do you say to the fans? Like, this is them saying that we're progressing as a club. We've just knocked back an offer of that size, which would have been unthinkable when they were playing fucking Millwall in League One 5 years ago.
And also, how do you... I don't know how much longer you can keep saying to Riyad Mahrez, nah, not this summer. Nah, not this window. Not this window. At 26 years old, with... I don't know how many more times a big club's going to come in for him for. That's the end of it for Riyad Mahrez. So I personally think he should have been sold. But it's very, very hard to decide. Hamster obviously... thinks the other way. What do you guys at home think now? There's a poll up there. Should Leicester have sold Riyad Mahrez, or should they have kept him? Let us know your thoughts on the whole situation as well in the comments below. That's pretty much the end of the show, isn't it? What else is happening on Football Daily?
Well, if you haven't watched
FDFC versus Soccer AM.
I forgot what show we were doing then, whether it was Sunday Vibes or
Soccer
AM. If you haven't watched the FDFC versus Soccer AM game, go ahead and do that now. We're not going to give away the result, but...
Because we've already talked about it in this show, haven't we?
Struggling to finish our sentences. Pat, take over.
90+1 facts about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. That is out right now. So check that out. Check out Alexis Sanchez as well, Paul Pogba, Jose Mourinho, all the greatest hits from our back catalogue. We're starting to get up there, and we're going to get some new strands out, we hope, in the future. Make sure that you're commenting on the videos if you have any ideas for new shows that we could do, and who knows, maybe we'll feature you on the channel. And
if you want to be involved next week, get your question using the hashtag Sunday Vibes. We're going to put the heater on because it's bloody freezing in here. Have a great Sunday. Goodbye. Love you all.
What an outro.